To install the brackets for our CPU cooler, we're going to need to remove these stock clips. They're each held on with 2 screws. And then we're going to want to use these brackets. They come in a little bag labelled M4, M5, and we're going to screw one of these onto each corner. Again, don't lose these. The best place to keep them is the motherboard box. We're now ready to start working our AIO, and the first thing to do is set our fans onto the radiator, making sure the cables are coming out towards the back of the case. Then we're going to use the long radiator screws that come with the AIO to secure the fans to the radiator. Coming from each of the fans, we've got 2 cables. The first is a 4-pin PWM connector, and with the AIO we get this triple splitter cable. So it's just a matter of plugging each of the PWM connectors into the triple splitter cable. So that's now going to leave us with one 4-pin PWM connector to plug into the CPU fan header. The other cable coming from each fan is a 3-pin 5V ARGB cable, and we are going to be able to daisy chain them together because there's an additional cable coming from each of the fans. So all I'm going to do is take the middle fan and I'm going to pull the protective cable off the additional header and plug the cable from our first fan into it. Then I'm going to take our last fan, remove the protective cable and plug the second fan into it. So with the AIO we get this double splitter cable because there's going to be ARGB on the pump. So we can pull the protective covering off and then we're going to plug the cable from our last fan into it. And that's going to leave us with an ARGB header which we need to plug into an ARGB header on our motherboard, and then we've got an additional header here to plug our pump into. If your motherboard doesn't have an ARGB header or you don't want to use it for whatever reason, there is this little controller that comes with the AIO. Just a matter of plugging this cable into the bottom. It's got a SATA power cable in it, and plug that into your power supply to power it. And then if we take this off, we've got a standard 3-pin 5V ARGB header on the end of it. And if we plug this cable into it, we're going to be able to press these buttons on the controller to cycle through the ARGB effects. I think I'm just going to plug this into my motherboard. Taking a look at our pump, we've got this 3-pin fan cable coming from it, and we need to plug this into the pump header on our motherboard to power our pump and allow us to control its speed. Because it does have a 3-pin connector rather than a 4-pin connector, we're going to have to make sure we run it in DC mode. Our AIO does have some lighting on it, and to access that there's a little rubber cover here we need to remove. We've then got this additional cable coming with our AIO. It's labelled RGB connector 5V, and all we're going to do is plug it into the connector here. There we go. And on the other end of that we've got a 3-pin 5V ARGB cable, and that's going to go into that little splitter cable that we're going to plug into our motherboard, or of course you can also plug that directly into the controller. And then I'm just going to remove this little label here. We're also going to need to fix the brackets to allow us to secure this to our motherboard. Because I've got an AMD motherboard, I'm going to use the AMD bracket. So it just simply slots into place here, and then we're going to use 2 of the small screws to fix the bracket into place. And then it's exactly the same thing on the other side. Then we can set our top radiator bracket into place, and we'll secure the AIO to the bracket with the short radiator screws. I'm then just going to lower our AIO down into place, but before I actually put it down fully, I'm just going to pass all the cables through to the back. Okay, that's all our cables pulled through to the back. We can go ahead and lower our AIO down to place, and then it's going to clip in at each corner. Our CPU fan header is this one here at the top of the motherboard. We'll line it up at the top and push into place. We've also got another ARGB header here at the top of the motherboard, so we'll bring the ARGB cable coming from the fans through. We'll get it pushed into place and then just pull all the excess cable through to the back. Just before we install our AIO, there's some plastic protection on the cold plate we're going to need to remove. Next we can add some thermal paste to the centre of the CPU. It does come included with the cooler. Then we can line the AIO up with a bracket on the motherboard, and we're going to get a thumb screw onto each corner. And then it's just a matter of tightening each thumb screw up in turn. Our pump header is this header here next to our CPU fan header. So take the cable coming from our pump and plug it into the header. Then just going to route this cable up towards the top of the motherboard. And the ARGB cable I'm just going to pass through to the back of the case. At the back of the case we've got that double ARGB cable we plugged in earlier on. We'll remove the plastic protection and plug the cable coming from our pump into it. And we can then remove the plastic protection from the AIO.